Welcome back. I'm Tyler. You're watching the channel with my fracking name on it, and welcome to the 91st installment of Last Week Lolita News. At the top of the segment, Spoon Magazine has unleashed a torrent of photos of AP's upcoming spring collection. My prediction of dusty pastels has been proven accurate, and while I am deeply satisfied to say I told you so, the part of my soul that desires things of quality is equally disappointed. I'm sure there's someone out there who likes dresses the shade of a used dish rag, but the rest of us have a little something called self-respect. That said, it's not all a loss. There's also a $400 tarp. If this has shirring, I'll eat my shoes. Lyrical about to make you go bankrupt. A sentient picnic blanket. And is that a snow shovel on your head, or are you just happy to see me? If nothing I've mentioned so far suits your fancy, there's still the girl who smokes in the bathrooms during class, and it's unclear if this dress comes with the big red shoes or you have to buy them separately. A pity the model refused to wear the matching nose, and sources say they heard a series of angry honking noises followed by a short scuffle. Also, we finally have some pictures of the print below this elementary craft project, and I'm delighted to report that the results are in. This is what French Cafe would look like if you dragged it through the dirt and then sold its body for parts. Forget the aesthetic balance of a distinct border print, let's just throw an entire breakfast spread at a JSK and see what sticks. I suggest they name this thing Little Bear's Mistake, which finally brings us to the last and best print of the entire lineup. Tulip Bouquet is the crowning achievement of the spring collection, and I will not be taking questions. Sure, the mint version looks like a bedsheet wished it was a real boy, but the yellow and pink versions more than make up for that. And there remains another option that might be sex, but who knows given that this image has 2 megapixels to rub together and dimensions befitting a tardigrade's left tit. Thus we end the parade of disappointment on a high note and can turn towards a brand that has apparently risen from the dead while I was playing possum. Hey Nuri has joined hands with indie brand Iris Garden to produce Beloved. There appears to be a JSK, OP, bag, and blouse on the table. The Kickstarter for this project began on February 9th, and we've exceeded the amount of time I'm willing to talk about something that gothic Lolitas like. There's not a bunny or pastel in sight. Consider this my monthly acknowledgement that your substyle still exists. I'm going to be rinsing my eyes out with Meta's fantasy Starry Sky. It's got a freaking cape. A cape I expect to bear human weight because for $460, you'd better be able to base jump off a 3-story building. At the bare minimum, the texture of this fabric should be able to scrape the popcorn right off your ceiling, and experts agree that it should double as a full-body exfoliation service, give or take a few third-degree abrasions and the overwhelming urge to peel your skin from your bones. In all sincerity, I'm going to need someone to purchase this and tell me how it feels, because while it is elegant as hell, it does look like the dress equivalent of a cheese grater, and I'm prickly enough already without giving anyone who comes near me a friction burn. Whatever the case, pre-orders are open now, and delivery is expected sometime in June or July for those of you who haven't financially devastated yourselves with the re-release of Happy Garland. Which wraps up new releases for the week, and turning towards last week Lolita news, next special segment. The Lolita community is entirely at peace right now, and it's making me nauseous. So in the interest of doing something with my time, the following is how to avoid ending up on this show. These are also applicable tips for surviving in any online community. Ignore them at your own peril, but don't come crying to me when your self-esteem is being gently loaded into a wood chipper. Survival tip number 1, beware the screen cap. Otherwise known as the thing that will absolutely be taken, stripped of context, and replicated 50 times over before you can so much as pry your dumb foot out of your stupid mouth, losing your shit in any context where screens are involved is going to end like a blowjob on a pogo stick. Which is to say messy at best, devastating to your reputation at worst, and even if there are a tiny minority of people willing to dig up the circumstances surrounding why you did what you did, they have to also be interested in disseminating that info to the masses. Said masses have already moved on to the next thing to be outraged at, and no one has any space in their brains for the true story behind that metaphorical moment when you were discovered pantsless and bouncing around like a hamster ball that was just punted down a flight of stairs. Mind you, I'm not encouraging paranoia, but maybe think about what you're about to say before posting it, or don't. I will absolutely benefit from it if things go badly. Which brings us to survival tip number 2, learn the basic rules or get bent. I will not sugarcoat this one for you in any way, because while the whole fashion is for fun, there are no boundaries line of thinking absolutely works in most aesthetic pursuits, Lolita fashion is a distinct style for a reason. Such distinctness has helped maintain its longevity when many other J fashions have been diluted into non-existence. And I feel I have to front load the reasons behind there being any guidelines in the first place, because I have yet to run into a single soul that starts whining, "Fashion is just for fun," without being given the distinct impression that their brain is ornamental at best. Said guidelines are not restrictive in any way beyond actually defining Lolita as distinct from the Ross discount rack these people call a personality. Learning the outline should take no longer than 5 minutes, and I suggest you drop the entitlement to redefine an entire fashion because you're too lazy to read, and instead call whatever abomination you've pasted together from your closet what it deserves. The word you're looking for is Lolita-inspired, otherwise known as the only term you can use that won't result in me making it my business to ruin your day. This takes us to survival tip number 3, and our final bit of advice for the evening. Whinging on about how mean Lolitas are is both an inaccurate representation of the community at large and a surefire way for me to wring some serotonin out of dubbing over whatever you've said with a high-pitched whine. There has to come a point in your life where you understand that the likelihood of every community member you interact with being mean is incredibly unlikely. The common denominator in this situation is most definitely you. And while I'm sure it helps you sleep at night to think that you can't possibly do anything wrong ever, is it more likely that a massive and diverse group of people are all horrific meanies out to destroy your attempts at happiness specifically? Or are you processing reality through some kind of shoujo manga psychosis, refusing to acknowledge anything the community has to say, and your emotional response to criticism of any kind is basically figuratively pee on the rug until you get your way? This type of person is generally shocked when this tactic doesn't work, and fortunately for us, they will usually remove themselves from any group that didn't cave in order to protect their glass bones and paper skin from the slings and arrows of the kawaii princess community. A quick reminder that my demeanor is not popularly represented in said community. I am an outlier made up entirely out of disembodied resentment, and most Lolitas are good people with decent intentions. Do not lump them in with my fervent commitment to seeing how much a human soul can take before it crumbles into dust. A lighthearted note on which I think we can end this segment, because that's all the time we have for tonight. This has been Tyler. You've been watching the channel with my fracking name on it. I'd like to thank my patrons for making the series of thinly veiled threats you saw possible. And if you'd like to join their number, you can head over to patreon.com/lastweeklolitanews to see either the true face of madness or a picture of my increasingly rotund cat, depending on the time of day. I recommend you leave while you still have the chance. Thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you next time.